See lots of familiar people. I see new people too. Welcome if this is your first time. I'm going to give it a couple minutes before I actually start because sometimes people come a little late. If you're new here, I ask that everyone keep their mics on mute for now. For the beginning, I kind of do a talk about whatever the topic is of the month. And then you can, I'll give you opportunities to post questions. And when you have questions, you can either unmute and ask me live, or you can type them into the question box at any time that you want during the whole call. And either I or Katarina will answer you there. You can keep your eyes there also for links. If we talk about different things, she usually links products for you or whatever if people have questions about things. And as far as questions go, you can feel free to ask anything you want. It can be related to our products. It can relate just to regular nutritional topics, food, health, whatever, anything that's in my wheelhouse of expertise we can talk about. So that being said, we have a bunch of you. This is great. Welcome, welcome. All right. So today's topic, some of you might have heard of things like this before, but I'm doubting you've heard of all of it because even as I was researching for this webinar, I found out some things I didn't even know at like all these years. So it was very interesting. Wanted to talk to you about label reading. So label reading obviously is one of the keys to learning how to eat cleaner, right? So if you've done a signature reset, there's a whole video there about how to read labels. And so that might have been your first introduction. If you haven't done that, that's a really important thing to learn. So the first thing to know is what part of a label is actually important versus which is not. So now, if you look at a nutritional fact label, on the top, it'll say the calories, the grams of fat, then it'll say grams of sugar, protein, all that kind of stuff. And that seems to be where people mostly focus their attention when they look at a label. Oh, this has too much sugar. Oh, this has not enough protein. Oh, this has too many calories, whatever. When in reality, the important part of a label is the small print underneath that says what the ingredients are. So, because let's take this for example, if you took a bottle of our juice, our Sweet Roots juice, there might be, 30 grams of sugar in it. I don't know what's in that juice off the top of my head. And so you might say, wow, 30 grams of sugar, that's a lot of sugar. But if you look at the ingredients, it's all sugar just from fresh fructose, which is 100% healthy and good for you and is not at all alarming as far as a high sugar content. However, if you saw like a tasty cake or something with 30 grams of sugar in it, and it's like, oh, that's not as bad, it's the same as my juice, thinking it's the number, it means the same thing. But look at the ingredients on that, it'll say things like God knows what. High fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, refined this, refined that. And then it'll say also probably things like natural flavors, which that's the whole topic of this conversation basically to come. So they're not the same. It's not like you can substitute calories for calories or fat grams for fat grams or sugar grams for sugar grams and have the same result. Because I'm proof of that. As far as like weight loss specifically, I counted every calorie and fat gram for many years and I couldn't get to the weight that was healthy for me. And it wasn't until I learned how to eat the foods that have integrity and that are full of goodness for you that I lost weight. And it wasn't by restricting those at all calorically. It was by doing just the opposite. I was having them without any kind of restriction. So that was proof right there that calories don't match calories and sugar grams don't match sugar grams. So basis just of label reading is to learn to read the bottom part of a label and not to negate the top, but the top is really pretty unimportant if you don't know where those sources come from. If you don't know where the sodium comes from or the sugar comes from, it doesn't tell you if it's healthy or if it doesn't. What's underneath it tells you if it's healthy or if it's not. So I'll stop right there if anyone has a question first, because I know that might be new to some of you. Otherwise, I'll keep going. Good. Okay. What I really wanted to focus my part of today's talk on is how to identify those ingredients and really why they're bad for you. So this could be a 3-hour conversation easily and then some. So rather than get into all the nitty gritty of all the individual ingredients, because some of you have, if you read our company emails, I put them in there all the time. The basic things that people usually know are not good. The high fructose corn syrup, the hydrogenated oils and stuff. That if those are new to you and you don't realize that those things are bad for you, put a note in the comments and we can do another webinar about that at another time, because I'm going to focus particularly today on natural flavorings and what that means. So I don't want to skip over. If you have questions about those things, we can either cover them at the end or we can do a whole separate talk about it. But for today, I want to focus specifically on like natural flavorings and additives, because that's where a lot of companies, including natural food companies and even organic companies sometimes, hide a lot of really kind of scary things that you wouldn't want to be putting in your body if you probably knew what they were. And a lot of these things aren't even allowed in countries, but we allow them here, which is, to me, like crazy in and of itself.
And some of them are really disgusting, just to add.
Actually, this whole idea came from Katerina because she told us, she read about this thing, the first one I'm going to tell you about. And she's like, guys, do you know about this thing? At one of our meetings. And it spawned the idea for me to do this whole talk and to look into it more because I had never heard of this. And it was just like mind blowing to me that I've probably at some point in my life before eating healthy ate these things. So, but let's first describe the difference between natural and artificial flavors, because people see on the label artificial colorings and flavors, and they might, if they're health minded, they might shy away from those things for their kids. If they see natural flavors or natural colorings, they might shy towards those things, which makes sense because, you know, these companies are experts at manipulating your mind and being false with their advertising. So that's 1,000% what's happening here. I'll tell you, number one, there is no official definition of what natural means from the FDA. So there's a whole lot of everything that can fall under that category. As many as 100 ingredients, 100 items or chemicals per single ingredient are allowed in a natural flavor. To be a natural flavor, it just means that at some point in the beginning of the process, it was derived from some plant or animal. That's all that it means. It doesn't mean that the chemicals added to it are natural. It doesn't mean that it's vegan or vegetarian by any means. It doesn't mean that it actually is natural. Like you're thinking natural flavor, you think, oh, beet juice for coloring, or you think like, oh, you know, I don't know what you're thinking. It's not. It's in most cases is not that at all.
And they call it natural to psychologically manipulate you to think that it's okay and safe and from nature, because you hear natural and you're like, oh, that can't be bad for me. So that's an important point just to keep in mind.
Exactly. Like say you're looking, and I'm not calling out this brand specifically. I don't know if they are. I'm just going to use them as an example because people know of them. This brand like Simple Mills, and they have crackers and all kinds of things, and then bread mixes. They have really clean ingredients. You might see like whole grain this, or expeller cold press this kind of oil, or natural flavors there. And so you would automatically assume that if they're clean about all their ingredients, they're clean about their natural flavors, and they very well may be, but they also very well may not be. And you have no way of knowing that unless you actually call the company to ask. And even then you might not get a straight answer, because lots of times, first of all, lots of times they don't even know, or they'll say it's proprietary, or it's our special recipe, or blah, 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 blah. And it could be very well up to 100 things in that, under that one little label. And you think you're getting something really clean, which you're not necessarily getting clean. So this is more so to bring awareness to you guys, so you start asking the questions and learning. And there are some companies that you can trust, or just companies that don't say the word natural flavors and just actually say, some companies will be very transparent and they'll say natural flavors and put a parenthesis after and tell you exactly what they are that they're including in that. And those are the ones you want to go with, that you can trust more so. So I picked 10. I could have picked 35 easily or more of things to cover that were just like crazy, but some of them are more crazy than others, that are considered natural flavors or natural additives. And the very end actually is not a natural one. It's about food dyes specifically, because I got a lot of questions about that. I thought it might interest you also. So the first one is the one Kat brought up with us in our meeting, and I thought we'd start there because it was a mind blower. It's called Castoreum. And this is actually made from the secretions of a beaver's anal glands. I know this is gross, but this is just the truth of what it is. And the secretions from their anal glands are used to naturally flavor enhance foods, typically vanilla ice creams, yogurts, raspberry iced tea, and it's FDA approved as natural and safe for consumption. It's natural because it comes from an animal. Safe for consumption, to me, I don't know. I don't want to be good for any beavers in that way, but so it's just
What's the name of it?
Castoreum, but it will not say it on a label. It'll be under natural flavors or natural ingredients. So you're never going to see the word Castoreum on a label. So now this is obviously not something toxic per se, but it is something I think you'd want to know. I mean, I would certainly want to know. I wouldn't want to choose to eat that. And also, if you're a vegan and you think you're eating vegan, you're not. You're no longer eating a vegan food. And lots of vegans are really careful about those kinds of things, and some don't even know that they can have all these non-vegan ingredients in a natural ingredient topic. So that was one. Number 2 is called, I guess you pronounce it as, well, I'm Italian. I would pronounce it as carmine. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce it. It's spelled like carmine. That is made from cochineal insects, which are these like little gross little red, like bigger than pill bugs, plump little red insects. To make 1 kilogram of this kind of colorant, you use 100,000 of them. So it's definitely a whole lot of bugs to make not a whole lot of color. But it's a natural colorant, and just about anything that you find that has a red hue to it that's not natural, it's actually natural. Anything red uses these bugs to color it. So that would be like raspberry yogurt, maraschino cherries, the Starbucks strawberry frappuccino. outrightly uses that. A lot of grossness there. So, I mean, it's better than probably like a red 40 dot, but I don't know. To me, I wouldn't want to eat that. So, yeah. The third I learned about recently, I'd say I learned about it like only last year. And read it like in an Instagram video or something. I saw it called shellac. So you might have been familiar with this because it has been kind of circulating around in certain circles on Instagram. But if you don't have social, maybe you don't know. So shellac is a resin that is made from insect. It's called.
No, let me ask him because it's like
is
those two. It was Frank Keller and
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were talking to me or not. Anyway, this shellac is in all shiny candies. So like jelly beans, candy corns, M&Ms, Skittles, all that kind of stuff. Anything shiny, 1000% has this shellac. They call it confectioner's glaze, but it's actually just coming from these insects. And even like what got me, because I eat these all the time, with those little clementines that are really shiny, and many citrus and waxed fruits use this shellac as the wax. So if you're not peeling it or properly washing, you're actually eating this bug shellac. I haven't honestly touched the clementines because it skeeved me out so much. It skeeved me. I'm not saying you can't eat bugs safely. I mean, people eat bugs all over the world, but like to me, I don't want to eat any bugs. So I have not touched a clementine since then that has the shiny skin. And if you actually look, it's interesting. They actually do tell you when shellac is in things. If you look at the back label of like a bag of clementine cuties or something, very small, underneath all the ingredients, it will tell you this uses a shellac resin-based wax. And that's when you know it comes from bugs.
And always notice how they never really call it what it is. They have like a fancy term, because who in their right mind would be like, oh, shellac, that's beetle poop or whatever, you know? So always do a quick Google search in the grocery store and see what things are derived from.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a clip shellac on my wooden boat. That's what I'm talking about. And now you want to eat it, or people want you to eat it, right? Okay, another one that's commonly sounds, yes, shellac for nails. It's the same basic thing. Well, yep. Called L-cysteine. So now some people know if you see an L before a name, that denotes it's an amino acid. So like most times if I would see an L something on a label, I'd say, oh, it's just an amino acid added to this food. So and if you don't know that, that's just common. That's just knowledge I'm teaching you. L dash something is an amino acid. So L-cysteine is quote unquote an amino acid. It is, but it's derived from human hair, duck feathers. That's where we get it from. Well, that's where these companies get it from. It's used to soften bread and give texture. So any store-bought bread has this in it. 100% of the time uses this as their bread, the dough softener.
Yeah.
They will use it as an amino acid name to kind of hide the fact that they won't tell you that it's human hair, or God knows where they're getting these human hairs from.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. And it has been known to cause intestinal disturbances in a lot of people. So I'm not saying that the celiac people of the world aren't really celiac, but there's a good chance that these cause this contributes to intestinal problems, especially when it's human hair derived. They've shown that's happened more commonly with digestive issues with eating breads, soft breads. You won't see this like an Italian bread from a bakery typically, like that kind of a thing. They might use other things, but they're not likely using this. This is more like for store-bought packaged.
Commercial. It's more commercial baking, like cookies, crackers, breads.
And not just like white ones, like healthy ones too, like whole wheat. If it's soft, it has it in it in a store. So don't like get fooled by that, thinking that something's whole grain. Oh, this probably doesn't have that yunky. It does. It has it in it. Another one called lanolin, which again sounds healthy. It's known to be good for your skin. So some skincare companies will tap this as being healthy for your skin, although there's a lot of controversy about that because it causes a lot of rashes and quote unquote eczema symptoms in people, which, you know, that they don't realize they're using it to soothe. It's in a lot of baby products, a lot of sunscreen products, but it's also in a lot of food. It's used to soften chewing gum. So pretty much all chewing gum that has gum base on the label, which if you look at chewing gum, they pretty much all have those words gum base on the label, have lanolin in it. And that comes from the oily secretions of sheep. Don't you wonder who thought of these things? Like I just sit and like who thought to like take that stuff out of a beaver and put it in food and taste it? Like who thought of it? Someone gotta be wacky, right? Like I'd love to know where that even came from. But anyway, the lanolin, like I said, has been known to cause topical rashes and reactions in a lot of people, but they don't typically relate it back to the lanolin. So lots of times people perpetually use it and not realize that's what's causing their chronic skin problems. And I would assume that it's probably also causing chronic skin problems if taken internally, because that would just make sense to me. So I think, did I just get questions in my little queue over here? Let me see.
No, I'm just adding
Oh.
what you're talking about.
Thanks, Kat.
You're welcome.
Everyone needs a Katarina in their life. That's all I have to say.
But some of these things, if you don't have the spelling, you might not find it. So
Very true. Okay, so methylparaben is my next one. So obviously most people know the word paraben. They think that's probably bad because that's been kind of commonly circulated in the last few years. You don't want parabens, you don't want phthalates in your skincare products. But methylparabens can also be in food products, and it would not say paraben on a label. It would just say natural flavors or natural colors, natural additives. This is kind of gross, but this is the truth of it. So methylparaben comes from female dogs when they're in heat, and it's from their sexual organ. They scoop whatever that like goop is in there, and that's what they use to make methylparaben for our food. It's actually considered a natural preservative, an antifungal agent. It's in most canned products. Anything that has to be preserved, jarred and canned products that have natural flavors or natural anything, most likely uses this to preserve it as a natural preservative. So when companies call it no, like artificial preservatives, we don't do this. Obviously, we have no preservatives, but like most companies, when they say no artificial preservatives, they're using this as a preservative and calling it natural. Gross. And also, again, not vegan. So if you're noticing, a lot of these things are not plant-based or vegan. And a lot of people assume that when they see these products, they just are, because they don't see any glaringly obvious animal products in them, but they're not. Okay. Oh, nice. You guys asked Kat to do it. Good ideas, you guys. Okay, I just make sure I answer questions in there. Okay. I'm going to say this one for second to last. Next is called Isinglass. Now, this is for the beer and wine drinkers in the group. It's a clarifying agent in many beers, craft beer specifically, lots of times, and in some wines. And this clarifying agent is considered a natural flavor, quote unquote. It falls into that category. And it's used to clarify jellies, also used to clarify glue. And it's made from the dried bladder of sturgeon fish and catfish. So it's, again, a non-vegan product, considered a natural flavor because it's derived from an animal. It goes through multiple chemical processes before it gets to the usable agent that it goes into the food. So these I didn't really specify this, but these chemical processes it can go through don't have to be natural. They can use solvents, they can use emulsifiers, all kinds of stuff like that before it gets to the point of where it goes into our food. And they still can call it natural because it at one time derived from a natural food. So it's really no difference in artificial and natural except for the original place it started, but it goes through the same toxic chemical processes to get to the end ingredient. That goes for everything I just told you about. I didn't really make that too clear, but just in case I want to specify.
And to branch off of what Lisa's saying, so the same 4 families have a wine monopoly, basically. So all the wine you get in the grocery store and at major wine places, even if it's natural, organic, whatever, has this in it because they have to mass produce. So they put this kind of stuff in it. Lisa, I have a wine company who stands clear of this additive and sugars and all the things if you want me to share it.
Share. Definitely.
Yep. All right. That's all I had.
Yeah, sure. Put it in the what should I call it? The conversation for everybody. Sure.
Okay.
Is that the one you brought to my house that time?
No, that one's the one that you order from the specific biodynamic farmer.
Okay.
But I'll link it in.
Okay, cool. Next, emulsifiers, which doesn't sound horrible in and of itself, but the main emulsifier used is called propylene glycol. It is a thickening agent to preserve foods. So like, it's like a less toxic, quote unquote, version of antifreeze, basically, because propylene glycol is basically what's an antifreeze. And it's banned completely in Europe, this ingredient. Not the propylene glycol is not used anywhere in Europe, but we allow it here, of course. It's in common things like Coca-Cola, seasoning blends, baking mixes, many alcohols and alcohol mixes, teas, dried soups. It's in a whole lot of things. Anything that needs a thickening or preserving agent will likely have something like this in it. Does not have to, again, be called out on a label. It'll just be a natural or artificial flavor. Something interesting to note, and this is kind of a, like I have personal experience with this and not just reading it. Someone I actually used to be engaged to has a best friend that was the vice president of Johnson & Johnson. And I spoke to him myself many times, about this myself. He left the company when he found out some of the practices that they had. But the reason I bring this up is because they have, like Johnson & Johnson, for example, has an entire line of topical products. So whether it's powders to shampoos to creams that are designed with recipes that are allowed in the UK and in Europe, and a whole separate building that produces them with different standards, and then another building where they produce everything for us, or multiple buildings where they produce everything for the US that don't have any of those standards, that have all the chemicals, all the proven carcinogenic agents in them, and all kinds of other things. So, and the same goes, I looked into this too, for food companies. So like Kraft is a common example. So the Kraft mac and cheese we buy here is full, literally full of very, very harmful agents in it. But the Kraft that you buy in Europe is not. They don't allow it. They have like natural turmeric and paprika coloring, and we use yellow dye number 5 instead of it. So to me, that's mind blowing that we actually have the capacity and are currently producing healthier versions of these things, but we don't sell them here. We sell them only to other countries, and we just keep poisoning the people here with our food. And to me, like, without getting too crazy, like conspiratorial or political, but the reality of it is, like, big pharma is fun, and big food agriculture, they're all in the same circle of trying to stay rich and keeping us sick. And that's just the truth of it. And I think that anyone that does any kind of deep digging of research could find the same to support that. So to me, the companies that support the medical schools are the companies that are also, making a lot of the foods that keep us sick, or a lot of the drugs that make us sick. The pharmaceutical companies and the food companies support these medical schools, and they basically are told what to teach and what not to teach. And I can also personally testify to that because my brother is a doctor, went through medical school to become a dentist, and he had exactly one like two credits worth, I believe, of nutrition education, and it was completely like nothing like I would teach any of you. It was very, very like, eat your dairy, eat your grains, eat your oil. All oil is the same. Seed oils are better for you. All the opposite of what's true for health. And I remember he stepped out of his class in college to call me and said, "I want to ask you before I step up and say something, say the wrong thing. Like, isn't it true that olive oil is better, different?" And he was remembering things I had told him in the past. So, and that is not that's not by coincidence. And I firmly believe that is intentional. They don't want to teach our medical professionals, and I have a lot of respect for medical professionals. I have an uncle and many doctors that I respect that I go to personally, but they're not taught the truth about food. They're just not. So unless they do the further research on their own, they're just not part of their education. I worked for many years with a doctor local here, and we had a program together, and he was very forward thinking and wanted to know about nutrition, and he was open-minded to things I told him about and did his own research. And he's like, basically, I was taught to poison my patients because I was taught for years about drugs, which obviously there's a place for pharmaceuticals, and sometimes they're absolutely necessary, but they're taught more about the poison than they're taught about how to help people heal or to prevent the poison from having to be administered in the first place. So not to get off too much of a tangent, but it all stems from that same place. And that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because you have to open your eyes to the bigger picture of our food system. And, we are like so passionate about this at Raw Generation, and about our standards are so strict that like we don't even entertain using something like erythritol, which is monk fruit sweetener. We won't even use that anymore because erythritol is not good for you. And the things that are considered very natural, we won't even compromise on those kinds of things. And you shouldn't either with anything that you choose to eat.
Yeah. And to go off that, if you view it as a business model, like if you're healed, they make no money. So it's really just that simple.
It is. That's, I mean, that same person that left Johnson & Johnson that I was telling you about, he actually left when he found out that they house at one of their Johnson & Johnson facilities under lock and key with an armed guard, more or less, a machine. I'm sure there are many things in this place being housed, but he knew specifically of a machine that has been proven to cure graft host disease and HIV virus. It's a proven technology. They bought from the creator, and they've kept it under lock and key, and they don't let anybody have access to it, including the people that are dying with these diseases. And that's when he's a Christian man. That's when he left the company, because he couldn't morally stay there, knowing that they were doing that. And he's actually the man. If you ever heard of the Elijah test that was first created for AIDS, and that went around like all like into the Africa countries, so he actually created that and took that himself and administered it to people in like needed places and treatment and stuff with that. Anyway, good person. I totally trust what he told me. And that opened my eyes to a lot of things years ago before I knew a lot of things. So anyway, let's go back onto my list, because I still have 2 things left on my list.
Lisa, just to clarify, that is derived from petroleum, correct? Okay.
It's petroleum drink. So it might actually, that I think actually comes on a label as artificial flavor.
Okay.
I think is how they call it. They can call petroleum artificial. They can't call it natural.
Which would you willingly put petroleum or gas on your body?
It used to be called from Cartol, I believe, and now they changed it to petroleum, which I don't find to be any better. But
yeah.
So number 9, this to me I think is probably surprising. I would think to you, because you've heard about MSG. Everyone kind of knows. Why do they know? They might not know why it's not good for you, but most people try to stay away from MSG knowing that, oh, it's not good for me. But I don't know if you realize that the glutamate byproducts in MSG are the cause of the problems. They're totally allowed to be put in food as a natural flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to call it MSG or monosodium glutamate on a label. If it says natural flavors, there is, I'd say 99% of the time, MSG, right, in your natural flavors. If you don't know too much about MSG, it's called an excitotoxin, which means it unnaturally opens your taste buds, so that you get like an unnatural taste sensation from food. Like, for example, like Doritos are a common example. No food in nature tastes like a Dorito. It's physically impossible to use natural flavors to mimic a Dorito flavor, and that's because there's excitotoxins in the Dorito, which makes you addicted to them. It actually has addicting properties to it. It also makes you overeat, and it leads to the obesity epidemic that we have. So and it's also a neurotoxin. So, we have so many problems now that are neurological. Look at the amount of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, weird, neurological disorders that have completely skyrocketed. Lupus and MS, they're all over the place now. And I'm sure that a good amount of that comes from these neurotoxins that are in all our foods. I mean, think about anything that you eat. Is in a box, bag, can. It's not fresh produce. And sometimes even the produce, as you can see with the shellac and stuff, has weird things in it, but it's the basic stuff. I mean, it almost always has this in it. We're like getting poisoned all the time if you're not aware, and they're not telling you it's on there. So an unaware consumer would be eating these things and getting sick. So it's considered a natural, if you're wondering, because it is technically fermented from like GMO starch or sugar beets. That's where it starts. The process starts with those foods, but obviously it goes far off the wagon after that point. So the last thing I was going to talk about was dyes, which is a whole conversation unto and of itself. So do you want to stop here and ask any questions first, or are we good to keep going? I'm going to check in here too if I see if I missed anything. I live in Santa Rosa, California, home of True North Vegan, water fasting, alternative healthcare. Awesome. They purposely keep their signage low, key as they've been targets. I'm sure a lot of companies have.
Yeah. A lot of them actually move to Mexico because they get attacked. So
that actually didn't happen with I'm sorry, Kat, go ahead, finish.
Oh no, I was gonna say that just tells you everything you need to know.
That happened with my school, my college that I went to. Now, the school I chose was the oldest running holistic, nutrition school for well over 25 or 30 years when I started going to them, that I got my bachelor's and my master's through. And they decided they wanted to try to become more mainstream compliant so they could, those schools are alternative, like certified. They're not certified through the typical middle states organizations and things like that. And once they started that process randomly, they just shut down. They got shut down because, and I don't care what anyone says, like, I got a phenomenal education through that school. I know a lot of really famous people that went there and are doing a lot of major healing work for people all over the world, that went and got their education from that school. And that's why I'm sure they're shut down, because they're doing real work with real foods and not with junk that are getting, that are supporting these companies that are doing the certifying in the first place. What did I just miss? I need to join a work meeting. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad you came. I hope to see you next month. I think, okay, so I'm going to go to food dyes, and then the ground is open for you guys, and I can always stay a little later today if you I'm talking longer than usual today, but this is kind of a lot to cover, and I didn't want to not cover it. So food dyes, they will not be listed as a natural flavor or colorant. They will stay right out on a label like yellow 5, red 40, yellow 6. It will say those things on a label. What amazes me is how many people ignore them, especially in kids' foods, because they just like glaze over them. If you start looking, you'll see them in a lot of places you would not expect. Things that you wouldn't think would need a bright color, like Life cereal or other brown cereals, pickles, white frosting that you wouldn't think would need a color. It's even in there. Yogurts like Yoplait. People buy Yoplait or Dan and Light and Fit. It's in there. This is really scary to me. The coloring is in children's Motrin and Flintstones vitamins. So now you're buying medicine for your children or vitamins for your children, and you're poisoning them with these toxic food coloring, which I tell you about these colorings. It's horrifying. Fiber One bars in cereal. So you think that's healthy, and you're getting this junk in there. Lunchables, which that's not too surprising because that's kind of processed, but people do feed them to their kids all the time because it's just easy. And it's kind of like a balanced meal, and they get that. And, I'm not judging any parent that does these things, but I just want to inform you that you're not doing it blindly, because it's very easy to do it blindly when you see the calls on the front. Oh, fat-free or gluten-free or this, that, or, full of vitamins and nutrients. So you see all these, they call out the quote unquote good things that they can salvage from this horrifying list of ingredients that they actually have on the back. Instant quicker oats, have it in there. Mac and cheese, I told you that's full of junk, but that's full of yellow 5. Yellow 5 is the most common additive that is used. And just to give you some perspective, people will fight against the, crunchies of the world and say, well, in the 50s, we ate all this stuff and we turned out just fine. Well, in 1955, 3 million pounds of these colorings were used a year. And now we use over 15 million pounds a year. So just to give you an idea of how much more of this stuff is going into our food and our food supply.
Yeah. I actually found yellow 5 in some pepperoncini, the Mazzetto ones. I was just like trying to find a clean brand, and I was like, why is there yellow 5 in peppers? For what reason? So,
yeah,
and it's because if you naturally pickle peppers yourself, they're not as vibrant. So again, we always go back to the psychological manipulation of big food, because they're very big on color, and they know if something looks good, you're more likely to buy it. So
now, I think most of you people know or have heard that like coloring agents often are related to ADHD and like behavior disorders in children. If you don't know, like blue's very commonly tied to that, but even a lot of the other colors are.
Red is the worst for autism. I worked with the autistic population for 10 years, and we never gave red dye. And when I was working with babies, when we had work parties with, Valentine's Day cupcakes with the red dye, we made sure we waited till the end of the day to give it to them, because we knew they were bouncing off the walls. And if you ask any teacher, they will say the same. So
yeah,
everyone knows it.
And ADD and autism are two of the most common childhood disorders now, and they're very heavily medicated for these disorders. And the reality of it is, lots of times they would have so much less as far as symptoms go if they just didn't have the food dyes in their food. That would not fix everything, but it would certainly help. I mean, I've had lots of clients that had these children, and I helped them take off the dyes of their food, and they had lots of better results with their children. Not more importantly, but like more, maybe relevant to you guys, is that they're carcinogenic. These dyes are proven cancer-causing agents. So people can make the argument, well, everything causes cancer. Well, a lot of things do cause cancer. That's correct, or can make it worse. But we can control some of the things, and we can't control others. We can control what goes into our mouth every single day and every single meal. You can choose to eat foods that are going to heal you and help you, or foods that are going to harm you. And so maybe you make those choices once in a while because for a reason you just really look forward to having this special moment with your kids, and you want to have something that has junk in it. Well, then do that and make that choice clear-minded, but know that 98% of the time you're not making those choices. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily have to be an all or nothing proposition, but it's about being educated, and 90% of the time making better choices for yourself.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys saw, but like thousands of everyday snacks and foods have literally been linked to cancer, and they're actually facing ban. And some of the ingredients are these dyes. So I can drop the link to that news, but this is a big deal in America because, people are addicted to their snacks. So it's just very telling.
And again, in the UK, they've had to remove these dyes. They're not allowed. They can't use artificial colors. They use beetroot juice, turmeric, paprika. They can't have aspartame. They can't have sodium benzoate as a preservative. Sodium benzoate, if you look at your labels, it's on everything. It's
Yeah,
banned
it
in-
is.
You know, so anyway, this is like a kind of a, I feel like this is a Debbie Downer kind of a webinar, but it's important to know this kind of stuff. You know, ignorance is bliss only till you get sick, and it's not bliss anymore. You know, then you wish you knew the things that you could have found out sooner. So that's my.
And a lot of us are here because we did get sick, and you know, if you
That's
know,
how Kat found natural foods. Kat was very sick. That's how she found it. Found eating the way that she eats now.
yeah.
You know, that's my spiel. Floor is yours, you guys. For any kinds of questions relating to this or anything else not related to this is fine too. You have at least a half an hour of my time if you want it. Someone always has to start it, and it gets rolling.
Don't be afraid. We don't vote.
You scared the crap out of you probably now with all of this.
I had a question. Hi, I'm Kelly. How are you?
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, I've been getting your juices now probably for like 3 months. I even convinced my neighbor when I was feeling so run down after Christmas, and I was like on Amazon, and I was like, I gotta just like stop craving all this junk. And I knew I had to just do it. I highly exercise and do a lot of stuff, but I kept craving the thing. So it worked. And then I became a fan. I have a whole freezer full of it. What I'm running into now, you know, I have 4 kids under 12, and everything you're saying, and I've watched many episodes on like clean foods. It's like I have 3 boys and a little girl. I mean, it is just so hard for me. It gives me anxiety listening to it because it's just so hard to think of what to feed them. And like I've cut most, like I don't let them like get so mad when every sport team's like bring Gatorade. I'm like, no, I'm not bringing Gatorade. We're not having anything with food diet. And it's like there was easy things to cut, but like just listening to that, it's so hard to conceptually think of like what to feed or kept them. I know it like if it was just me, I can think of me as one person and do it. But then when it comes to them, they come home. It's just exhausting at times to like try to keep it as clean as I wanted to keep.
Yeah. It is exhausting, especially when you don't even know and you can't even trust all the companies. It's definitely exhausting.
Yeah. I don't know what you guys all eat all the time because I would tell even like a therapist, oh, I love these, you know, what are you drinking? Oh, this drink. They're like, oh, it all has sugar in it. I'm like, yeah, but it's natural sugar. And I felt way like when I would just do just the drinks all day, I did felt lighter. I felt great. I didn't know, how do you suggest to, except for my kids, like how do you suggest like in putting them into your daily routine? Like is the green drink, like how many to put in there, like how many to have during the day, I guess I should say, and putting in the other foods?
Yeah, a few things I could mention. First off, we are literally weeks away from launching an entire kids line of juices that are meant just for kids. Actually, I don't know if I can show you a picture. Let me see if I can.
I dropped a sneak peek, but I didn't say what it was.
Oh,
Okay.
So click on the link. Wait, is it there? I don't see it.
It is in the Facebook group. Hold on.
I think
Can you pop it in here, Kat? I was going
Sure.
to do the same. Yeah. So
Do you want me to post the picture that Matt?
Yeah, that's fine. Don't we
Yeah,
just-
'cause that's a really nice photo. I didn't really tell them what it was. I just said that we were launching something.
Oh, nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
I've been working on this for a long time. So this product, I'm going to answer your other question too. Just want to explain this to you. It's kind of neat that you brought this up. And it's going to be the topic of next month's webinar. You know, the main thing with children is that, first of all, they're usually picky. It's hard to get lots of fruits and vegetables into them, especially the vegetables. And like you said, that you can't really trust so many companies that are marketed towards children to be actually safe or good for them. So these drinks, I call them my sippers, little sippers, and these are the rainbow sippers. They're in the colors of a rainbow. And you have one for each day of the week. And they're only 4 ounces each. They're easy for a kid to drink of any age, from 2 all the way up to 16 or 18. And if they drink one a day for the week, they'll have had 40 different fruits and vegetables by the end of the week.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. So they're actually in the middle of being tested right now with a whole bunch of kids, including my nieces and nephew. But did we be able to put the picture in, Kat, or no?
I'm trying to figure out how to drop it.
Can you screenshot it and just like put it in like that?
That's what I was trying to do, but there's no option. I want to see if there's a link for it that I can just drop in.
Yeah, my kids love the carrot drink and the beet one. I was just kind of being mean and not letting them, because I'm like, it's for me, and they're like really expensive. Like I buy the big one, but to have them all drink one a day would be a lot. What I have done too is like for the carrot and the beet, I can pour half and like make 2 out of it. So at least they get some of it because the flavor is so awesome. You know, it kind of can dissipate and some more. It did let them have some of it. One of the other tricks I was doing was, but I don't know if you had a specific protein. I know they're all powders. I don't know if there's something that's just like almost clean because I started to realize I'd rather put my 60 or whatever that largest, I get the largest box. I customize it and I usually stay to the juice drinks instead of the proteins just because I'll just try to make them, even though I know I'm not driving it from like the actual. I've been using Orgain. It's just one that I use, which probably has some of this stuff, which I'm going to go look up. But I was trying to use that and put all my money to the other vegetable and fruit ones, if that makes sense.
So you're saying you're asking for a clean protein substitute that's not our protein shakes, you're saying?
Well, right. If I want to use like more of getting the boxes, right, because of your juices, because that's just something that I don't feel like I can do myself.
I see. So like, so you want a clean protein alternative that's not actually our ones because you want to use your boxes for the juices.
Correct. Like I don't know if there was something.
Yeah, I have to say I don't know of a single protein shake that's anywhere close to as clean as ours. There's actually a shake already made, but there are some cleaner protein powders that are not so.
Yeah, just the powders. That's what I started
do-
using Orgain, which because other ones tasted
Yeah,
too.
that was actually not so great. I would, if you wanted to do like a Sun Warrior protein, that's the cleanest one I know of.
Okay, thank you.
You're
I'll
welcome.
drop the link. I can't post the picture in here for some reason, but I can share my screen.
Can you? Oh,
Yeah. I'll share my screen quick and give you guys a
preview. No one else has seen this yet except for like 3 of us.
Yeah, you guys are the first ones. I feel like people in the office didn't even
It's
get
my debut as a food stylist yesterday. We don't.
Lisa and I can't share my screen. I don't have the bandwidth. Lisa,
Too many people, is that why?
I'm not sure. You're probably the owner of this video. I could send you the link if you'd like.
I have it up here. Hold on. I'm going to try once and then we're going to give up on it if we can't. I'm going to try once.
Okay. So this is the Sun Warrior. Lisa, do you want me to drop Truvani in here too? I mean, I don't love that they have pea protein.
No, I'll stick with the Sun Warrior.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Is it working? Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes?
that's
Can you
it. That's our baby.
Orange slippers. So, yeah, the sneak peek for you guys. I know. Oh. Okay, I'm back now. All right. Anyway, coming hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks. All right. So, did I miss any questions up till now? I think so. Okay, I was just going to ask about Truvani.
So I don't love Truvani because I believe they use pea protein and monk fruit or stevia, and stevia was used as a contraceptive in Peru or Paraguay. So I don't like telling people to use stevia because if you're trying to get pregnant and have kids, it can really mess with
Hormones.
that. So.
Oh, Lori says, remind everyone, about the banana date parsley smoothie you mentioned. I'm glad your 8-year-old loves it. All the kids I have naked for love it too. I'll give you the recipe if you weren't here last time. It's our favorite green smoothie that I make with my nieces and nephew all the time. And I told the group about it last time. So it is 2 to 4 frozen bananas. Now the bananas have to be fully ripe, which means no green on the stem and not yellow, but actually brown speckles starting on them. They don't have to be like brown gross, just like at least the brown speckles have started. That's when they're fully ripe. You peel them and you freeze them. So 2 to 4 frozen bananas with a nice big handful of flat leaf organic parsley, 4 to 6 dates, depending on how many bananas you put, and a little handful of spinach if you want, and water, and blend it. And it tastes amazingly delicious.
Lisa, I'm going to write this in. You said...
I usually do 4 frozen bananas because you can share them with your kid.
Okay.
Maybe then I would say 6 medjool dates, pitted medjool dates. Obviously, make sure there's no pits. That would be gross. A nice big handful of flat leaf organic parsley and a handful of baby spinach if you have it. You can take it or leave that. and water to blend. So the more water you put, the more liquidy it is, like a juice. The less water, the more thick, like a milkshake, which is how I personally like it.
All right.
It's packed with vitamin C and natural plant protein and all kinds of goodness in there.
That's the smoothie.
Thank you, Kat. Okay. So we answered Giovanni. I think I answered everybody else. Okay. We have like 15 minutes left. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about. Yes, no? Come on, you guys. You always get going and have all these great questions.
I think they're shocked from all of the food.
Are we still talking?
Everyone in the office was, I mean, talking about that in a politically correct environment. You're talking about castoreum and you talk about what it is in the office and you're like, what the hell is going on? We were all cracking up, but it really is sick when you think of it.
Gary.
Hi, Lisa.
I
Okay,
see.
so to reiterate, the only way you're really going to know if any of those wonderful things are in your product is to read the ingredients and see that all of the ingredients are natural and hopefully clean. I mean,
The only way to know is to either buy something that does not say natural flavors or that lists what they are in parentheses after, or to call the company and see if they're transparent with you.
Yeah.
No.
The best thing to do is just avoid it, in my opinion, because they probably won't be honest with you anyway. And a lot of these companies do private label, so I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't even know what was in their own product because they're having it made like in a lab somewhere else. So
Also true.
yeah.
so the ingredients on your nutrition label won't be able to tell you whether it's there or not?
They'll just come up as natural flavors. That's all.
Yes, so by law they hide under that, guys, because if somebody's like, ooh, what's castoreum? Then you're gonna have uproar.
They can put up to 100 different ingredients. So they can call something natural flavors on the label. That's all it's going to say. And there could be up to 100 different things in there. And they don't have to tell you what any of those 100 things are. But it can be any of the 10 I just told you and a bunch of other stuff.
They
But
actually also do this with fragrance. Whenever you see fragrance on a label, like for body care or skin care or perfume or cologne, they also can put whatever they want in there under the guise of fragrance. They're like these little terrible loopholes that they find to just add toxins. And then once, enough people can file a class action lawsuit to sue them, then they get rid of it and they replace it with some other crap. So it's a vicious cycle.
hey, Missy.
Are there any things that are good that are listed as natural flavors, or that is just what they're piling everything underneath and just avoid anything with natural flavors?
Well, the reality of it is there probably are some things in there that are just a spice blend or something like that that also could be included there. But to my mind, if they're not being transparent about what those natural flavors are in parentheses after it, they're probably trying to hide a lot of these things.
Okay.
That would be my assumption 9 times out of 10, really.
If you guys want a really good book on the flavor manipulation that goes on in big food, I'm actually currently reading this right now. It is very eye-opening to the amount of manipulation and flavor and how they play on your psychology and biology of your body. I mean, it really is nuts. So this book is called The Dorito Effect, and they explain all of this type of stuff. And it's a great book, and it's very easy to read. You don't need to be like a science brain to understand what the contents that are in there.
Kim, did you have a question? I see your hand up. Hello, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you? Okay, so I'm sorry if this is redundant, but I want to make sure. So the list that you went through, we will not see these on labels.
The only one I've ever seen on a label
Okay.
is the shellac on clementine specifically. It will not be even on a label for candy. They will not say it, but they do often put it on produce. But they don't,
Okay.
if you see bulk produce like out at Whole Foods, for example, and it's just like laying out, there's no bag, it's probably on there and they don't tell you. So peel it or wash it, you know, as far as produce goes. The other ingredients, no, it will not, none of these will be. The dyes are the only thing that will be called out by dye. They'll say the dye number of the colors. They cannot put those dyes under natural flavors. They can, this is
Okay.
artificial though. If it's artificial colors, it's those. It contains artificial, like lots of times instead of saying the individual dyes, it'll say on a label contains artificial flavors and colors. That's these.
Mhm.
Those are those poisonous dyes.
Kelly asked if there was any way to recycle our bottles. So right now there is not a way to recycle the bottles back to us,
They're
unfortunately.
recyclable as they are to recycle them, but back to us, no. It's a constant battle we fight with trying to be more eco-friendly. It's kind of difficult with the way, we have tried like a host of different ways of shipping our bottles and keeping them actually frozen in transit to go all over the country. And so far, the way that we do it after 12 years of different kinds of trying is the only way that we can ensure that everyone gets them actually unspoiled and still at least partially frozen. So why we don't love the ecological effects of it per se. We don't have another option to get the juice to people as of now. So we have tried and tried and tried. We're even right now the project we're working on right now is getting these little sippers to ship because there's such a small mass of juice. If you've seen our like big shot packages, like our skinny boosts that come in like 60 packs, the reason why those are such big packs is because we can't currently ship less than 60 and have them stay frozen. They thaw because they're so small. So we are trying every which way possible to get these little guys to be in smaller packs. We're trying different gel packs and dry ice and all kinds of things. So hopefully we'll find a way. Maybe that'll be a way that we'll use going forward for other things too.
Yeah, and we're always trying to like be more eco-friendly. We have a guy in here that's dedicated just to doing that. So it just hasn't happened yet.
But thank you for asking. And for
I have a question. I'm getting ready to order some like a big box, and I ordered in the past and there seemed to be more green juices, like there was like fresh greens and crisp greens or something like that, and I don't see those. Were those discontinued?
Yes, they were discontinued, and we replaced them with some of the new lower sugar green juices that we had. They just weren't selling all that well, and they were flavors that were here before I came. So in tasting them, I didn't love them as much as some of the other things, and we wanted to make room for some other new things that have been coming. I don't know if you've noticed, if you've been a customer for any amount of like years, in the last like 2 years, almost the entire product offering has changed because I've redone a bunch of stuff, and we want to make some more smoothies and things. So those couple green juices are no longer in the lineup. Sorry to say. You're welcome. Let's see. Any closer to a Craving Crusher Skinny Boost mix pack? Not yet. However, we do have new shots coming out. Hopefully in time for Memorial Day, also called protein boosts. A new method coming out called the protein method that is meant for people that want more protein in their day while they're losing some weight that they also want to work out. Kind of meant like this day skinny method comes after a skinny cleanse. This would come after a protein cleanse particularly. But these protein boosts are little 10-gram boosts of protein in 4-ounce shots. And when we have all 3 shots, we might do a mixed pack with those. We were talking about that some. So keep you posted with that. Yeah, good. We love it too. Hopefully everyone will love it. Yeah, when people send feedback to us, every review that comes in, literally every review and every piece of feedback that comes in, I read it. I read every single piece. They forward everything to me and I read it. And I do take a lot of those suggestions into consideration when I make new things. Because I don't know if you guys know, in addition to being the nutritionist here, I'm the product developer here. So I create all our flavors and all the products, the concepts, everything kind of comes from my brain or someone influencing my brain to do it. So I really do value your feedback and your opinions because directly, if you write to me, I read it and I take it into consideration for sure. So if there's things you want that we don't have, let me know because maybe I'll make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all right, we are just at the end, but I will stay a little longer if there's anything else that we missed. Any other straggler questions? No? All right, you guys. Well, this is another great call. Oh, yeah. Is there a brand of kids vitamins you recommend?
I have to look. I cannot think of one right off my head.
Either off the top of my mind, but I will.
One person you can maybe look into is Dr. Green Mom. What do you think about that, Lisa? She has, and I would have to look into Mary Ruth's. A lot of times these things have dyes in them, and
I don't know about Mary Ruth. So I think she might have gotten bought out.
okay, yeah. So that I don't know. I'd have to
What
look.
I would say is the first thing to do is try to find a brand that has not been bought out by a bigger brand, because that's the first. If Nestle's bought your brand out, I wouldn't trust what they're doing now, even if they did something a while ago or something.
Oh yes, the wine company.
Good reminder. But as far as kid vitamins, I have to look into that for you. I don't know off the top of my head. I think the juices are better than vitamins personally. But
Okay, so here's the spiel on Dry Farm wines. They are the only, I don't drink, but if I do drink, it's them, because the guy who owns this company goes to every farm, whether it's in Germany, Italy, France. He checks the farm out himself, and they have to be a small biodynamic farm, which is better than organic. It's totally naturally, I believe they don't even do water irrigation. Like, it's totally natural, working with the land farming and giving the farmer the proceeds they deserve, as well as no fish guts, no GMO yeast, because they need a lot of yeast to grow, to get enough wine out to the amount of people here. So none of that goes on with this company. This is 100% pure, clean, no sugar added. You could use it for cooking.
right.
I order it as a gift for myself because I'm not a wino. So I'll just order 3 bottles of wine if I have an event coming up, and that's it. But you can subscribe to them.
And they're sulfite free too, right, Kat?
I think they have naturally occurring sulfates only. Nothing is added. So the sulfates are there, but they're not synthetic the way they are in wine land. I'm probably sounding dumb because I'm not a wine snob, but all the info on this guy is out there. You could look into the company. I really do think they're doing great stuff. So if you're going to drink wine, it's pricey, but it's worth it. And they also do a thing where they do food pairing. So if you need to cook with it, you can do that for like a special occasion, and they'll tell you what goes with what. And you always get a surprise wine from a different region that you've probably never heard of. It's a very cool company.
Nice.
Yeah. If you're going to drink, at least make it
Healthy.
healthy. No problem. And I never get a headache after drinking them either, ever.
Do you with regular wine typically?
Yeah, I'm prone to like hangovers if I drink anything.
Okay. That's good.
And no histamine response either. No redness, no ringing in the ears, nothing like that.
Hey, Michelle, do you have a question?
No, I was just gonna echo, even though nobody knows who I am. I've been doing the dry farm wines for about 2 years, and I will say, so I'm glad to hear they're on the good list. I do them because, yes, I like to have a glass of wine at night, and I also like that I do not have the next day any headaches. So I'm just not really to put a plug in for another business, but since somebody mentioned it, I will just say it has worked for me also. So I'm glad it's on the good list.
Yeah. I mean, we're all for like promoting brands that are doing the right thing, because we want these brands to, get recognized for the good that they do. I'd rather you spend money at a brand that's doing the right thing than big food. So.
Well, I think we also kind of we know how hard it is to have integrity as a brand. Like it's hard as a smaller company. I mean, we're not a huge company. And to keep that kind of integrity, it's not easily to afford or easy to do with the rules that we have, and the constraints we have. So these other companies that are fighting the good fight like we are, we try to support them too. So
yeah, it's definitely not easy. It's way cheaper to be using those food additives, and
it'd be way cheaper for us if we pasteurize our juice and send you pasteurized juice. We could sell you juice for half the price that we sell it. But then you're going to get zero nutrition. So is that really, do you want to pay half price and get zero nutrition, or do you, so not that it's just about price, but people do ask us a lot, well, why is your stuff so much more expensive than what you buy in a store? Well, because what you buy in a store is pasteurized or high pressure processed. So you're getting what you pay for. We do our very, very best to to keep our costs low with keeping our ingredients super, super clean. And that's just, other companies, and that's why it costs a lot more to feed your family organic than it does to feed the McDonald's. The same basic principle. They're using all this junk stuff in their food, which is cheap, and not the high integrity stuff that's expensive.
But now I would even argue with inflation that McDonald's isn't even cheaper at this point today. It's like,
No.
what is it at? Like $15? I saw my cousin had a Happy Meal. The fries were like this big. I'm like, what is that?
It's a billion years old though.
Yeah, I don't eat that stuff. I haven't either, but it's crazy.
Crazy times. Well, we are at 2. If we're good, I'll sign off here. Yes. You guys, this is great as always. Next month, keep your eyes open for the next webinar when you guys come. And like as always, if you have other questions or suggestions, email me anytime. Lisa Testa at Raw Generation. All right.
Thank you.
Let me
Guys.
drop that in. Hold on.
They're leaving.
As they leave.
Thank you guys.
Bye.